Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to discuss about shift reduce parsing example. So consider this grammar and we need to parse the input string id plus id star id. Okay. And we know that shift reduce parsing has four types of actions. Shift, reduce, accept and error. And here the first two actions, shift and reduce are the primary actions. So whenever we have a handle, we need to do the reduce action. Okay, so whenever the stack contains handle means the string on the stack will be matched with the right hand side of any of the production. So if it is matched with right hand side of any of the productions, it should be replaced by or reduced to left hand side of the production. Okay, the symbol on the left hand side, therefore it is called as reduce action. So whenever the reduce action is not possible, it means if there is no handle on the stack, we need to do the shift action. Okay, shift means the one input symbol from the input buffer must be shifted onto the stack. This is called a shift action. Okay, so these two actions are primary actions. We need to continuously do shift and reduce. Okay, so if you do that, finally if we get um, dollar and start symbol of the grammar on stack. Okay, stack contains only dollar and starting symbol of the stack, and the input buffer is empty. Okay, input buffer contains only dollar means we can say that accept action. Okay, because shift reduce parsing is one of the bottom up parsing technique. Means from the input string we need to derive the start symbol of the grammar. Okay, we will start with the input string in the input buffer. Finally, we will derive start symbol of the grammar. Okay, so this is bottom up parsing technique. Top down parsing means from the start symbol of the grammar we will derive the input string. Okay, so error action, last type of action is error action. Error action means whenever we cannot perform any shift action or reduce action, if input buffer is empty means we cannot do any shift action. And reduce action means if we don't have any handle means we cannot do reduce action also. And if we are not getting this configuration also, okay, means we can say that it is error action. Okay, so now we will see this example. So we have to start first draw these three columns: stack, input and action. So initially the stack contains only dollar. Okay, and input buffer contains input string to be passed followed by dollar. So id plus id star id dollar. Okay, and initially we cannot do reduce action, right? Because the stack is empty. It contains only dollar. Dollar means it indicates bottom of the stack. We don't have any handle here. So if we don't have a handle, we need to do the shift action, right? So write shift here, and we need to shift one input symbol from the input buffer onto the stack. Okay, id. So this id is shifted onto the stack. So the remaining input is plus id star id dollar. Okay, next action is we need to check whether id is a handle or not. Handle means it should be matched with right side of any of the production. So now id is matched here, so it should be reduced. Okay, so the next action is reduce action. So reduce by the production f tends to id. Okay, so now id must be popped from the stack. Okay, id must be right side. In bottom up parsing, right hand side of the production must be replaced by the symbol on the left hand side, right? So id will be popped from the stack and it should be replaced by f, left hand side of the production, f. Then here, if you do the reduce action, there is no change in the input buffer. Okay, we have to write as it is. Then f, we need to check whether f is a handle or not. Yes, f is a handle, so it is reduced to t. So next action is also reduce action. So reduce by T tends to F. Okay. So this F must be replaced by left hand side of the production T. Okay. No change in input buffer. Then next action again we have to check whether T is a handle. Yes. So since E tends to T is a production, we can write reduce reduce by E tends to T. E. Here no change. Then E. Since E alone is not a handle, we need to do the shift action next. Okay. So one input symbol from the input buffer. So the next input symbol is plus. Plus will be shifted onto the stack. So the remaining input is ID star ID dollar. Okay. Then check whether E plus is a handle or not. E plus is not matched with any of the right hand side. E plus we have here, but E plus is not a handle alone. Okay. We have T also. So E plus is not a handle now, right now. So next action is also shift. Dollar E plus ID. Okay. ID is shifted. So the remaining string is star ID dollar. Okay. Next action is replace ID. Here E plus ID is not a handle, but ID alone is a handle, right? So ID F tends to ID is a production. So reduce by F tends to ID. E plus ID must be replaced by F. Okay. Then the remaining input string is star ID, the same, no change in input string. Then F. F is a handle. So F must be replaced by T by using T tends to F production. So next action is reduce by T tends to F. E plus T. Star ID dollar. Okay. So now E plus T is a handle, right? E plus T is a handle. But if you consider E plus T as a handle and if you do the reduce action, then we will replace E plus T by E, right? So we will get E dollar E on the stack. Okay. So next we will do the shift action. So we may get star ID like that. Okay. So if you do like that, we won't get any production. Okay. For handle matching. Okay. So since E star ID is not a production. Okay. ID may be replaced by F in one step. So dollar E star F in one step, and in next step we can replace F by T. But since E star T is not a production, right? And we cannot convert E into T in any step. Okay, we don't have T tends to E as a production. Okay, so we cannot derive this grammar. Okay, if you replace now, if you consider E plus T as a handle and if you do the reduce action, we cannot parse the input string correctly. Okay, so here there is a chance for reduce as well as shift. Okay, so this is called as shift reduce conflict. Okay, so there are two types of conflicts in shift reduce parsing. One is shift reduce conflict, another one is reduce conflict. Reduce conflict. Okay, shift reduce conflict means when there is a confusion, okay, about shift and reduce, whether we have to do the shift action or reduce action, because both are possible in this case. Okay, so this kind of conflict is called a shift reduce conflict. Reduce conflict now, for example, sometimes we may get a handle on the stack. For example, here we have E plus T as a handle. Okay, suppose if we have one production like E tends to E plus T and another production like P tends to E plus T. Okay, for example, consider this. So here we may get confusion whether we have to replace E plus T by E or E plus T by P. Okay, whether we have to reduce this production to E or P. Okay, so this is called as reduce conflict. Sometimes we may get reduce conflict also. Okay, so in this grammar we have got shift reduce conflict. So whenever we get shift reduce conflict based on the problem, uh, it will be chosen. Okay, the correct action will be chosen. So if we choose reduce action in this case, we will get error. Okay, so we have to choose this shift action. So next step is, next input symbol star must be shifted onto the stack. So ID dollar. Then since E plus T star is not a handle, we have to again do the shift action. So next E plus T star, we have to shift ID onto the stack. So remaining symbol is dollar alone. Now ID is matched with the uh, so here ID is matched with the right hand side of the production. So it is a handle. So next action is reduce action. So reduce by F tends to ID. So dollar E plus T star. This ID is replaced by F. Here no change. Now T star F is a handle, right? So it should be uh, replaced by T. So again reduce action, reduce by T tends to T star F. So E plus T star F is popped and it is replaced by T. Okay. T star F is popped and T is pushed onto the stack and no change in input buffer. Now E plus T is a handle. So next action is reduce action. Reduce by E tends to E plus T. So dollar E plus T must be popped from the stack and E will be pushed onto the stack. Okay, so dollar is on top of the stack. Okay, so now we got this configuration, right? Dollar yes, dollar here yes me here E is a start symbol of the grammar. So dollar and E on stack, and we have only dollar on the input buffer. So the next action is accept action. Okay, so in this example, we have got shift, reduce and accept actions. Sometimes we may get error action. If the input string is wrong, means we may get error action. Okay, the start symbol, the given input string to the start symbol of the grammar. Okay, it's a bottom up parsing technique, right? So we will consider this input string here, ID plus ID star ID. This is the given input string. Okay. So in bottom up parsing, if you consider these actions, reduce actions, first ID is replaced by F. So here F. Then T tends to F. So F is replaced by T. Then E tends to T, so T is replaced by E. Okay. Then F tends to ID, so this ID is replaced by F or reduced to F. Then F is reduced to T. Then next action is F tends to ID, so this ID is reduced to F. Then next action is again T tends to T star F, so T star F. Okay, so this will be reduced, these three symbols will be reduced to T. Okay, T tends to T star F. Then next production is E tends to E plus T. So this E plus T. So this is replaced by E. Okay. So we are reaching accept. Okay. So the bottom up parsing. The parse tree is constructed from bottom to top. Okay. Therefore, it is called as bottom up parsing. Thank you.